sometimes a thing gets so successful that it kills off its direct competition, like how we all use Tesla's alternating current instead of Edison's direct current, or how nobody talks about the 18th century Scottish noblewoman Lady Jane Douglas anymore. I'm just saying. And as in life, so too in video games. There are some games that were such perfectly crafted examples of their genre that they annihilated their closest competitor, or even all their competition, permanently changing the landscape in their field. Consider these games that were so successful that they killed off their direct competition, and hit us up with your suggestions in the comments. Also, there's never been a harder time to make YouTube content for a living, so if you enjoy what we do and you'd like to support us, even more than you already do, thank you for your current support, then check out the Patreon OX Supporters Club. The link is in the description. On with the show.
So what is it Lenny knows? Just find Lenny.
If being first meant being the best, then we'd all be eating Hydrox cookies instead of Oreos, Kiddicraft blocks would be bigger than Lego, and we'd all be eagerly awaiting Driver 6, the first $2 billion video game. Back in the year 2000, Grand Theft Auto was a popular, if somewhat low-key, driving game. Viewed from a top-down perspective, you could race your little Matchbox cars around a pretend city, running over vaguely pedestrian-shaped objects and hijacking anything you came across. It was fun, but nothing here hinted that someday this would be the biggest franchise in all of entertainment. That same year, however, saw the release of Driver 2, the sequel to the previous year's Driver You Are the Wheelman, which took the 3D driving action of that first game and pushed it way beyond anything players had ever seen before. As in the first Driver, in Driver 2 you play as ex-race car driver turned NYPD detective John Tanner, who goes undercover as a wheelman to infiltrate a dangerous criminal organisation by completing various exciting driving missions around the world.
Tell him, Tanner.
The last guy to whack one of Vasquez's boys had his mouth filled by a Mauser clip and his gums glued up before they set light to his head.
While many of the game's missions were linear experiences, it also included a Take a Drive mode that allowed you to drive around a fully open world with 4 cities to explore, and crucially, let you get out of your car to move around on foot, attack other characters, or steal any vehicle you came across. At the time, this was mind-blowing, and it would continue to be so for almost a full year, until October 2001 when Grand Theft Auto 3 was released and changed the landscape of video games forever. People loved the combination of open-world driving and on-foot exploration and combat, and crucially, the hard-boiled criminal storyline that saw you gunning down hundreds of enemies in missions that were as violent as they were ridiculous and tongue-in-cheek.
Remember, this is your foot in the door, so keep your eyes on the road and off miss.
Unfortunately for Driver, with the massive success of GTA 3, they found themselves in a position where they started trying to copy what Grand Theft Auto was doing instead of focusing on what made their series good in the first place, adding gun battles and GTA-style missions in subsequent Driver games.
When they led me out, I was ready.
But Driver was always playing catch-up, which didn't escape the attention of Grand Theft Auto.
Our source in the police has informed us that one of our drivers is a strangely animated undercover cop. He's more or less useless out of his car, so we've tagged it with a tracer. Make him bleed.
The Driver series fell into obscurity after 2011's Driver San Francisco, by which point Grand Theft Auto was a cultural juggernaut that had defeated not just Driver, but Mafia, Saints Row, True Crime, and any number of other potential rivals that tried to move into the open world crime genre. But hey, it's been like 12 years since GTA 5. Seems like they're pretty much done making GTA games. Now would probably be a perfect time for a Driver revival, right guys? Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe give it a few more years.
Attackers incoming. Prepare your defenses.
Here, guys.
Get behind! Locked and loaded.
Overwatch is less of a cultural force than it used to be thanks to the spectacular own goal that was Overwatch 2, but for a while there, it was one of the most culturally dominant games around. Between people actually playing the game, a huge esports scene, and countless works of fan art, some of which were more safe for work than others, Overwatch was a juggernaut that ruled the hero shooter genre with an iron fist.
It is good to be back.
Or a doom fist, I guess, if we want to be on theme. But it wasn't always guaranteed. There were other games that were out for Overwatch's crown in the early days, and none came at the king so hard or missed so wildly as Battleborn. Developed by Gearbox Software, published by 2K Games, released within a month of Overwatch, and remembered by almost no one. On the surface, Battleborn and Overwatch seem to be pretty different games. Battleborn takes influences from MOBA, or multiplayer online battle arena games, with 3 modes, 2 of which feature regularly spawning minions for you to fight. Overwatch, meanwhile, is a much more traditional team-based shooter with more simple objectives, like taking over control points or escorting a payload. The biggest point of comparison is the characters. Being a hero shooter, each game features an eclectic cast of heroes for you to play as, each with unique powers and personalities. It's not even like the characters in Overwatch were better, because while it did give us a cyborg cowboy, a K-pop tank, and an ape in a mech suit, Battleborn had a robot butler, a luchador, and a penguin in a mech suit. So it's basically a draw.
Courage! Optimism! Rivers of blood! Teamwork!
Overwatch was just easier to grasp for most people, with simple objectives, and perhaps most crucially, Battleborn is a game where you have to unlock things like characters and character abilities as you progress. Overwatch, on the other hand, gives you immediate access to almost everything functional, with cosmetic upgrades being the only things you unlock over time. As a result, Overwatch went on to dominate with over 50 million copies sold, while Battleborn is little more than a footnote in gaming history, having done a meager 280,000 lifetime sales. We'll always have the penguin in a mech suit though. Some ideas are just too powerful to die.
Turn on the generators! Oh, here they come! The generators now! Oh,
Before 2017, if you ask someone what they thought of when you said the words Battle Royale, they'd have probably said the WWE Royal Rumble, or if they were cool, the Japanese movie Battle Royale. That's not fair. Royal Rumble is pretty cool. Ask anyone in 2017, however, and they'd have been just as likely to mention PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
Winner, winner.
So, where to next?
This was a Battle Royale game which started out as a mod for zombie survival game DayZ, itself a mod for first-person shooter Arma 2. It quickly established an entire genre of video games in which players parachute into the world, scavenge for equipment, and are inexorably driven together by an ever-shrinking game map. PUBG, as it came to be known, popularised the Battle Royale genre and enjoyed considerable success for a time. So much so that other video games started to pivot to include Battle Royale modes to capitalise on the popularity of the new genre. And no one capitalised harder or quicker than Fortnite Save the World, a looter-shooter survival game from Gears of War developer Epic Games.
Get ready to fight. Here they come.
Conceived as a cross between Minecraft and Left 4 Dead, Fortnite Save the World originally saw players building structures to protect survivors from a deadly storm and facing off against waves of zombie-like creatures. However, when PUBG started to enjoy enormous success, Fortnite's developers rushed out a version of their game that did away with the survival aspect and the zombies, and now saw players gliding onto the battlefield from a flying bus, trying to stay within a safe zone as the storm gradually got larger and larger. We're not here saying that PUBG isn't a popular game, it is. particularly the mobile version, but there's no denying that despite not being first to the party, Fortnite is the undisputed king of the Battle Royale genre. It's had over 390 million registered users to date, and it has a thriving esports scene, crossover events like concerts, and the wildest licensed characters you'll see in video games, from Darth Vader to Captain Jack Sparrow to Frankenstein to Sabrina Carpenter. Fortnite has Hank Hill, for goodness sake. I think it's clear who won this one.
Hello? Propaniac, do you have a mic? Hello?
Uh-huh. Yep.
While Battle Royale games like Fortnite and PUBG are popular, they're not the most popular type of game in the world, although you wouldn't know that if you asked my 11-year-old nephew. I'll beat him one day. That honour in fact belongs to Match 3 games, those puzzle games where you swap blocks or gems or coloured circles to create a line of 3 or more of the same colour, which then disappear with a satisfying sound or visual flair that has the same effect as a bucket of dopamine being sloshed over your open brain pan. Oh, that's the good stuff. For a long time, the most popular of this kind of Match 3 game was Bejeweled, which was inspired by early pioneers in this genre such as Columns and Shakiri, and saw you swapping gems to match 3 of the same colour to make them disappear. Oh yeah. Sorry, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, Bejeweled or something. Bejeweled was an immediate hit, spawning 2 direct sequels and several spin-offs, as well as hefty sales. By 2010, Bejeweled, Bejeweled Twist, and Bejeweled Blitz collectively had reached 50 million sales. However, all that was soon to change with the 2010 introduction of a game called Candy Crush Saga. A variation of developer King's original browser game, Candy Crush Saga was originally only playable on Facebook, a concept that I promise made sense in 2010. But it added a bunch of new twists to the Bejeweled formula to ensure its popularity would soon far outstrip its gemstone-based rival.
Tasty. Sugar Crush.
For a start, instead of matching jewels, you were matching candies. I mean, who doesn't love candy? In fact, the presentation was more engaging all over, with charming paper cutout characters, whimsical world maps, and music that was as relaxing as it was infuriating to listen to coming out of somebody else's phone on the train. Candy Crush Saga soon made its way to other platforms, particularly mobile, and that's where it really took off thanks to its business model, where it was free to play, but you only got so many lives until you had to pay or wait for a cooldown timer to elapse before you could play again. This, coupled with its use of social sharing and instant accessibility, meant that Candy Crush Saga attracted a wider, more casual audience, which ultimately led to its supremacy in the Match 3 genre. Now, Candy Crush Saga has been downloaded over 3 billion times, more than 5 trillion games have been played, and it still has an active daily user base of between 50 and 100 million players, making it one of the most popular video games of all time. But if they can copy Bejeweled and get that successful, surely anyone can do it. So watch out for my new game, Match 3 Chairs. Okay, it's harder than it looks.
If ever there was a series set up to succeed, it's the Medal of Honor series.
Not only did it successfully execute an atmospheric, playable first-person shooter on the original PlayStation hardware, the original concept for the game came from a gentleman named Steven Spielberg.
Yes, that's Steven Spielberg. How many other Steven Spielbergs do you know?
After Spielberg wrapped filming on Saving Private Ryan, he had the idea for a World War II shooter that was both involving and educational. His company DreamWorks Interactive produced the first 2 games in the Medal of Honor series before selling that series to the game's publisher, EA. At which point, EA made the most Saving Private Ryan-y game in the series, Medal of Honor Frontline, which features an interactive recreation of the movie's famous beach landing scene.
I can only assume Spielberg said no to ripping off Saving Private Ryan, and then when he left, EA went ahead and did it anyway.
It's fair to say that the pivotal moment that caused Medal of Honor's unlikely downfall wasn't Spielberg going off to direct AI Artificial Intelligence starring Haley Joel Osment. Instead, it was the fact that after the PC game Medal of Honor Allied Assault, two developers, Jason West and Vince Zampella, left to found the studio Infinity Ward. Infinity Ward's first game was Call of Duty, which did what Medal of Honor had been doing, only better.
Suddenly, Medal of Honor no longer held the title of Best World War II First-Person Shooter with the word "of" in its name.
To further twist the combat knife, Call of Duty cemented its status as the dominant franchise when it pivoted to contemporary military combat with Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare in 2007. Since then, it's been one of the most popular video game series on the planet. Medal of Honor attempted the same thing in 2010 with a modern series reboot that ultimately failed to save the franchise. Given that the only thing anyone can remember about that reboot was the size of the beard on the cover star, it's fair to say it didn't have the same impact in video game culture.
In beard culture, though, that man's got to be a hero.
4 years have passed since the mortal races banded together and stood united against the might of the Burning Legion. Though Azeroth was saved, the tenuous pact between the Horde and the Alliance has all but evaporated. The drums of war thunder once again.
World of Warcraft is so old and 20 years after launch, still so mighty that it's easy to forget that it was not the first game to do what it does. What it does, to this day, is let large numbers of players inhabit a persistent 3D fantasy world together, role-playing and questing and teaming up to bring down bosses. 5 whole years before WoW even arrived on the scene, however, a not-so-little game called EverQuest was actually the first proper MMORPG in a 3D game engine.
It is the adventure of quest that awaits the bold and daring.
Wow, look at that. It's like the year 2000 was a really long time ago or something. No, that can't be right. EverQuest was revolutionary, and its success at the time was unprecedented, despite its harsh and unforgiving nature. EverQuest didn't coddle players with baby stuff like, maps, and if you died, you respawned miles from your corpse without any of your equipment, which you had to go and fetch in a race against the clock. Like Dark Souls, but meaner. EverQuest's player population was at its peak in late 2004 with 550,000 active subscribers, just before it dropped the sequel, EverQuest 2. And then, 2 weeks later, along came World of Warcraft.
A world awaits. The world of Warcraft.
It's challenging at the best of times to transition the player base of one online game to a sequel, but alongside that, EverQuest 2 had World of Warcraft immediately eating its lunch with a more forgiving, accessible offering and the benefit of an established fandom. Not of World of Warcraft, but of the long-running Warcraft strategy series.
Blizzard Entertainment proudly invites you to experience Warcraft from a whole new perspective.
From there on, EverQuest 2 lagged behind World of Warcraft's enormous commercial success, hitting its peak subscriber count of 325,000 in 2005, never reaching the record of EverQuest 1. Meanwhile, World of Warcraft went on to hit 12 million subscribers in 2010, making it the most popular MMORPG of all time by a pretty wide margin. EverQuest 2 then went fully free-to-play in 2011, at which time World of Warcraft was only on its 3rd expansion of the 10 expansions to date. Both games are still playable, but I think we have sufficient data to call the winner here. Let's not forget though that EverQuest players walked, so World of Warcraft players could run. Back to their corpses as invulnerable ghosts without risking the loss of any of their equipment. Kids these days don't know they're born, and etc.
And no question, this ought to be a game that gets pulses racing. It's Leeds United, and they take on Huddersfield Town.
Well, thanks, Derek, as always. The scene is set, two good teams, a great playing surface, and a vibrant atmosphere. It has all the ingredients for a really exciting game.
To borrow a tired football cliche, the battle for soccer superiority between FIFA and Pro Evolution Soccer really was a game of two halves. EA's FIFA International Soccer was first on the scene in 1993, but Konami followed up with International Superstar Soccer in 1994. The two series ran in parallel for a few years, but in 2001 on the PS2 console, ISS was rebooted as Pro Evolution Soccer. I think Pro Creationism Soccer would have been more entertaining. I'm thinking Adam at left back, Eve up front, and the snake in goal. FIFA might have had all the official licenses, the player likenesses, and the soundtrack by Tiesto, but Pro Evolution Soccer, or PES as it became known, was considered the connoisseur's choice. The gameplay was more fluid and the pace was closer to that of a real football game, and for a time, PES was riding high.
He shoots! Unbelievable play! Brazil have increased their lead.
Unfortunately, that second half surge from FIFA was on the way. Around 2008, FIFA's gameplay improved significantly, and after years of comparable sales figures for the two football franchises, FIFA began to pull away in the lead. This coincided with the launch of FIFA Ultimate Team, which turned FIFA from a simulation of professional football into a powerfully addictive trading card game basically overnight.
Hi there, and welcome to FIFA 09 Ultimate Team, a brand new game that allows you to play football like never before.
Back in 2021, EA calculated that FIFA Ultimate Team alone had brought in revenue of approximately $1.6 billion, vastly outstripping the revenue generated from people actually buying the game. Whoa, that is an awful lot of kids' pocket money. PES simply couldn't compete, and a decade later, the final game in the series, Pro Evolution Soccer 2019, was released. After that, a free-to-play spin-off called eFootball was launched using the same engine, but it's a microtransactioned-up, pay-to-win mess that features none of the depth that the PES games used to have in their beloved Master League mode.
But here's Lingard. Oh, that's nicely done.
Ironically, FIFA doesn't exist anymore either, but that's just because EA decided they didn't want to pay for the FIFA license anymore.
Welcome to the club.
Maybe money was tight after they only made $1.6 billion. The series continues as EA FC, whereas Pro Evolution Soccer is dead and eFootball is struggling to keep its head above water.
Oh, that's incredible!
I guess you could say Pro Evolution Soccer was a victim of survival of the fittest. Should have gone with snakes in goal.
England have suffered a really wretched loss, a tragic game for them.
In your face, another victory against Lady Jane Douglas, the 18th century Scottish noblewoman.
Very ordinary, Lady Jane Douglas.
Who has yet to respond.
Conspicuously silent.
Yeah, what was I talking about? Games that killed their competition. These were some of those. Let us know your picks in the comments. Thanks for watching this video. Again, if you'd like to support us, keep making videos like these, check out the Patreon Supporters Club link in the description. And if you'd like to watch more from Outside Xbox, may I recommend this list up here. It's one of our very favourites. And then this list here from Outside Extra, our sister channel. And this is my personal favourite, recommended from me to you. Thanks for watching. See you next time.